Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a new episode on how to paint. And this time we're gonna paint on this wonderful katana, which is from a 1 up to 1/6 scale miniature kit I received. It's from Deadpool, and I gotta. Somebody asked me a few days ago if I can do a video on how I paint the Hamon pattern, which is a specific line that's characterize each samurai blade, and it's really an important part of each blade to symbolize the hardness of each blade, and each Hamon pattern is different. So there are typically 4 or 5 Hamon types that exist, and as you can see, we have these 5 patterns. The Suguha, which has a straight and really flat shaped Hamon line. Then we have the Notare, where you can see a little wave on the blade. Then we got the Gunome, which we have typically more shaped waves on the blade side, beneath, underneath the bloodline. You can see here. And we have the Midare, which is typically based on my type I painted, and Sanon Bonsuji. I hope I spelled it right. If not, I'm really sorry. If there's some Japanese guy out there, please correct me. So what I did is I created my own shape of Hamon pattern. So it should be between the Midare and the Sanbon Soji. So as you can see, it's really close to the Midare and Sanbon Soji Hamon pattern, and I only painted this side, but we're gonna go on the opposite side. But you have to notice that, or I have to mention that there will be a red reflection because the miniature is holding. Oh, let's get a little bit backside. Yeah, he's holding the sword like this, so his face will be on this side. So we have some red reflections on this, on the opposite side. But unfortunately, let's start with how to paint the blade, and of course the bloodline. What I do is I'm using my airbrush system with some white, and I'm going from the top side of the blade and I'm starting to mark out the blade, the sharp side of the blade. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a really small line that goes straight from the top to the bottom up here. So it's an imaginary line you have to follow when you paint a blade. Okay, let's see. Yeah, that looks good. So let's see, focusing the cam. So it looks like this. So we have now a good shape on the blade. So including the line that separates each part of the blade, like the sharp of the edge, the flat side, including the bloodline. For the bloodline itself, I'm using thinned black. I'm using matte black from Army Painter. Just take your time when you paint those small details, and if you go over the blade, don't worry. You can remove this later on when we start painting the edges. That looks good. But we are not done yet. And as I said, when you paint over the blade, don't worry, we will correct this later on. So now I'm using a mix of white and cold gray. It's from the Game Air range from Vallejo. So that it looks like this, for example. It's not perfectly lined, but we will, as I said, we will correct some parts of it, like there. And at the tip of the blade, we can use pure white, like this. See, that's the other side. To create the Hamon pattern, I'm using matte black and US internal blue or international blue intermedio. You say azul intermedio. To create my pattern line. And you don't have to follow any specific rule how to paint, how your Hamon pattern should look like. A little bit less, like this, okay. There you go. Upside down, okay, like this. What I'm doing is, if you can see, my brush is a little bit shaking, so this creates an unnatural or not similar pattern, as you can see up here on the top side. So I'm doing this all the way down the blade. So that it looks like this. So we have a really good shape already for the Hamon pattern, but I'm not really satisfied because there's some parts like on the tip of the blade, on the upper side of the blade, that I may correct when I'm almost done. Loading the blur brush. Okay. Yeah. That looks good, but upside here I will change a few things and correct that by painting thin lines in only one direction, like I did here. I only paint, and when you paint those lines in such a degree, so that you paint like this, really small lines all the way from the back to the top of the blade. And you can paint over the shape line I created, or that actually exists. Sometimes I paint larger lines or smaller lines, so this creates again a new shape for the Hamon pattern. So, as you can see, up here my mistake changed, and I really get a really good shape of the Hamon pattern, like with those small waves and high peaks. And I will paint all the way through till I reach the tip of the blade. See? Yeah. That looks good. So the blade now looks like this. It's really close to that version on the other side. So my finished version looks really similar. But we will intensify the lines just a little bit. This time I'm painting even smaller lines. Okay, let's see. Now I'm using my airbrush again. That looks like the way I want it, but there are some small things I definitely have to change. And now I'm using the US internal blue, pure, but really thinned down. And I'm start glazing over the whole blade. I'm painting now the edge of the blade, top side part, should be the blade head. Now comes the interesting part, to give highlight or edge highlight for the bloodline. It's really tough because the bloodline is really thin and I don't want to paint inside the bloodline, so I have to redo the step with a black. Okay, you have to redo the step. The blade is not really good casted, so let's do the same on this side. Okay. Now we are close. Okay. And now comes the next step to recreate this part here. It's a little bit hard to see on the webcam, on the video itself. It's some red brownish tone I want to create on the same side. So creating it like this. And as before, like the Hamon pattern, you don't have to follow any specific way or pattern itself, so you can paint it randomly on each blade you want to. Let's see. This is this side. We have this side. Can strengthen the part up here just a little bit. Here I'm using the brown reddish brown mix I'm having here with a little bit of black to flatten this reddish brown effect a little bit, or to darken it. Let's see. You can use it just a little bit up there again, maybe on the same height. That looks good. Now I'm redefining the edge again, and also remove or change some of the spots, like here, 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 and of course there are several spots that I'm not quite happy with, so I will change them by painting again small thin white lines over the whole blade. On this step, just take your time, don't rush through it, because if you're too fast or you're rushing over the whole blade, it could be possible that you will ruin the whole paint job. So just take your time, look at each part of the blade, and if you're painting a katana as well, look on the shape of the Hamon, or how the Hamon should look like after you're done, or when you start, when you have a good shape in mind and start painting the Hamon pattern on each side, and you start doing the same step as I do right now. Keep in mind that you have to follow this line with each small white line you're painting, but you can easily paint over it and ruin the whole thing and start from the beginning, and this is what I don't want, and of course you don't want that. So now it looks way better than before, but I will work out my Hamon pattern just a little bit to get the shape of it back. Let's see if I can correct some parts. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I'm quite happy how the result looks. A little bit of use blue international, I don't know. Let's see. Using just a little bit of white. A little bit too strong. A little bit grayish. Just recreate, or giving the illusion that there's still this edge of the blade that you can possibly see. Yeah. Using this just a little bit. Okay, no, that's the wrong tone, I think. Yeah, too many different tones on my palette. A little bit of raw orange red, mixing it into the heavy red, also from the Vallejo Opaque series. I'm painting various dots, and then there's large on the blade. A little bit of white. Just a little bit more. Okay, we're almost finished with the blade. See. can use on the backside here just a little bit more white into the previous. Get a little reflection up there. Actually on the bottom of the blade, because he's holding it like this, so there's actually not much light that hits the surface of the blade, but I'm still adding a little bit of light down there. As you can see, there's dark and it's much brighter on the tip of the blade. But what should I say? We are almost done, but I see a little mistake I have to correct there. Use some intermediate blue like this into there. It seems like there's a little scratch on the resin, and it doesn't look good. Yeah, that's corrected, and we're good to go. Just a little bit black. That's okay. To repaint the edge. And so there. On this side. Build up again the Hamon, the bloodline. And it seems that we are finished. And there's something I have to mention, because the Hamon pattern you see, you will see on this side. Okay, I see a small mistake, but this is no big thing. I'm using again my airbrush to build up some light effects. And I have to recreate a little bit of the Hamon, not much. Like this. First down there. And we're finished with the katana of Deadpool with the Hamon pattern. As I said, each Hamon pattern is different to another, so each side doesn't look like the other one. So this side has its own style. So like I said, like the Midare and Sanbon Soji. So you have the pattern on one side, but the difference on the other side is remarkable, because the Midari line doesn't look like. If you have the Midari line of Hamon pattern on this side, the opposite side doesn't look identically to the side you're looking at. So you have to mention this and keep in mind, like I did in between the Midari and Sanbon Soji. my Hamon pattern is in between, as I said, but each side looks different to another. So that is the character of each katana. Each every samurai is carrying, so just keep that in mind when you paint such swords from the feudal age. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me or send me a message on my Facebook page, Shattered Skull Studio, or so like, and the same on Instagram at Shattered Skull Studio. And I would be really appreciated if you leave me a feedback, a thumb up, or whatever. Just feel free and ask your question. I'm trying my best to answer them as good as possible. And I hope you enjoy my little video on the painting the Hamon pattern for a Japanese blade, or katana, what it's called. Yeah, what should I say? I hope you enjoyed it. And if you feel free, just send me questions, whatever. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to send me a message again. I'm sorry. Stay safe, guys. Have a nice evening, have a nice day, and don't work too much. Hope to see you soon. Have a nice day.